Hey, welcome back to Engagement Academy, the show that's brought to you by a disengaged employee. This show is based on hundreds of conversations, at this point, thousands of people that I've helped through the years, talking through why employee initiatives don't work and why driving engagement is so hard, helping you understand the perspective of my side of the camp, which was what it was like to be the average employee. I've studied all the Gallup best practices. I've figured out all the plot holes in the HR content that you're finding out there, and this show fills in the gaps of any vague webinar and your HR certifications that tell you what employee engagement is, but doesn't really tell you how to think for yourself and how to solve for it. So today's quick tip is about how employees feel about the executive team, but specifically the CEO. You should know that we really want to like our CEO. We really want to feel like we're close to them. There's all kinds of personalities in the workplace. Some people show it differently. Some people are very emotional. Some people are more black and white. But everybody wants to feel like their CEO cares about them as a person. And that can become challenging to solve for depending on the size of your organization, whether you have 20 employees or 2,000. The CEO is always going to be very busy with running the business type activities. They definitely have a job to do with, looking at revenue numbers and maybe talking to your board and meeting with the other executives, but they feel so far away from us sometimes that when you have your all hands or when you have your town hall or any kind of all company meeting, when we see them and they dictate changes to us or they try to motivate us, but they haven't spent the time to do basic PR campaigns with us, I'll call them, it gets kind of tricky to take them seriously. We don't really buy into it because we don't know them. So I'm going to talk about a few ways to help your employees feel close to your CEO and get your CEO to understand why this is a good use of their time when they feel like they're busy. Historically, there's been this open door policy like, oh, if you have a problem, come talk to me. That's really scary. And not every employee is just going to go knock on the CEO's door and be like, hey, I have concerns about the business, or hey, I just want to talk to you. I want to get to know you. It's too much of a power difference. So there needs to be intention behind setting up times where everyone can come to, maybe in groups. You have like coffee with the CEO once a month, and you have rotating groups of employees to make sure everyone has their chance. If this is virtual, you can do this with a Zoom. Everyone has their chance to just come and get to know them. I've been in an organization that did this, but they kind of missed the target here because the CEO needed coaching on what to use that time for. When I attended this session, this very well-meaning CEO spent the whole time talking about himself and talking about his love for soccer, but it was a very one-way conversation. I think he thought that, yes, part of it is we want to get to know them and who they are outside of the business and get to know who they are as a person. But it's a two-way conversation to ask questions to the other people in the group. And we sat in this meeting for an hour where he talked about how much he loved soccer, and we all kind of left and were like, well, that was weird. That wasn't really a good use of our time. So coaching the CEO on like, hey, here's some open-ended questions you could ask everyone that's business related or not. When you feel like you want to share that you love soccer, for example, ask everyone else, do you have a favorite sport? And let everyone go around. I know that seems like wasted time, and a CEO might be like, I don't have time to go figure out what everyone's favorite sport is. The point is not to feel like you're on an elementary school playground in like a circle kumbaya. The point is to be human for a second and let everyone get to know each other in a way that's outside of the role and the role that they play that helps the company make money. It lets everyone take their mask off for a second and remember, hey, we're all humans. And on a subconscious level, we're all trying to work toward the same goal, which is whatever your company's mission or vision is. Everyone's talking about wanting to solve for connection. To me, connection is every level of the employee hierarchy of needs, which I always bring up and I always include in the show notes. It's basically engagement. It's wanting to feel like your work has meaning. If we're going to follow a leader, which is the CEO, and listen to them when they try to give us a pep talk at the all hands or make changes or dictate our goals, we need to have had some kind of interaction with them. It's the basic foundation of how humans build trust and foster connection is to at least have spent time with the person. If the executive you're working with tries to tell you, I don't have time for that, a great way to position this for them is against what they care about, which is revenue. You say, hey, I get it. I know you're busy. These are our revenue drivers. The revenue drivers feeling like they have access to you and are close to you and that they're part of your daily life is going to make them care more deeply about their time spent here at the company. This is a very intentional thing that will directly affect productivity and our bottom line because employees are just craving connection and they're craving connection with you. And when you can give your time in this way and carve this out, It's actually the main priority to make sure that our revenue drivers help you get to your goal of driving more revenue or growing the business, or just frame it against whatever priorities that executive has. Say, this helps you get to that goal. You want to grow the business. It's a really great idea for you to spend time with the people who do the things to help us grow the business. Because not only is everyone going to get to know each other a little bit outside of work, and employees are going to realize that they have other connections to each other that they didn't realize while the CEO is there, which is a really cool skip level moment to just be with one of the leaders, the main leader, and be bonding with each other over learning about one another and whatever shared common interests you have. Again, it doesn't have to be like, what's your favorite sport? It can be anything like, hey guys, what's something that we all maybe don't know about you outside of work? And let everyone take it where they will. Someone loves to go skydiving once a month. Someone's thinking about taking in a foster child to adopt. Someone else volunteers at their kid's school in a way that compels someone else to go figure out if they can volunteer at their kid's school because they hadn't considered that that was a way to spend time with their kids while they also work. It's just a really great way for everyone to connect on a very fundamental level. But what happens is the conversation can always very easily shift into a very productive conversation about the business. And when the executive has built trust by opening with some very basic conversation starters, they can move into questions that will help them in their role as the executive to understand what gets in the way of the best work of the revenue drivers. You can coach your executive to ask questions like, hey, everyone, what about the business would you change? Tell me about a day in your life. Like what frustrations do you have about the business? And then they follow it up with, I really would like to know this because, insert your name, HR person. So-and-so's job is to make sure your work experience is great. And I'm a partner to making that happen. Our main priority in the business is you because you are the reason that we're able to grow and continue to do what we do. Insert your mission. I'd love to hear straight from you. What could be better about working here? And when you can get your executive to see why that's such an important thing for them to care about and why that ties back to revenue, you have someone with the ultimate power in their hand, which is like the top executive at the company telling employees, I care about you. I want to know what it's like here. I'm going to even admit that it's probably not perfect because what company is? Employees are going to lose their mind. At first, they might be like, nothing, it's fine. And you coach your executive in the moment. If no one has any feedback, say, of course there's feedback. They're just a little skittish to tell you. To encourage employees like, no, really, I'd really love to know. No one's going to get in trouble here. Let's keep it appropriate to like people's names and just let's talk about tactics and like inefficiencies with the business. What processes or what parts of your day or what part of the sales process or what part of the setting up marketing campaigns, what part of working in customer success, or if you have frontline team members, what part of working in the warehouse or what part of cleaning the hotel rooms, what part of cleaning the hospital rooms, what part of that makes you a little nuts and is something we could figure out a different way to do it. And they're going to tell you things that cause them to be disengaged. Oh, there's too many steps in this process. Oh, sometimes we have too many meetings and then there's not enough time to do the work. That's important intel that they should go get. Man, if I was a CEO, I would go do this on my own and I would find the ultimate HR partner, one of you guys, to understand the revenue with me, and I would do it on my own and be very proactive to 100% be spending my time with employees as often as I could, because that's the key to cracking not only the disengagement code, but remember, disengaged employees aren't productive, aren't collaborative, and there's turnover, and that's expensive for the business. It causes customers to churn, yada, yada. If I was a CEO, I would know that spending time with the people will cause them to feel more connected and give me information and data that's really important to help make sure that roadblocks are removed for them to do their best work. Over time, that will cause them to be more engaged, which will make them more productive, which will make them more collaborative and more innovative, which affects the bottom line of the business. Everybody wants the same thing. And the sooner you can get your executives to see that, pouring into employees in this way may feel like a waste of time, but it's almost like you don't not have time to do this. It's a critical foundational piece to moving your business forward, is to making that CEO accessible, making them feel more human to us, so that when we do see them in our email or in Slack, or if we see them in a meeting for the all hands, they're less untouchable to us. They're less inaccessible to us. And it feels less like some kind of overlord dictating orders and changing the business in ways that we felt like we weren't part of the conversation. If you have a huge organization, this is almost just as important. I would say that that's why the executive team is so important, to have the right players making sure the business is running smoothly, whether it's marketing, sales, operations, whatever your industry is. Those executives need to be high functioning so that the executive can spend a lot of time acting almost like the head coach of a football team. I didn't play football, obviously, but this is just a metaphor. Stay with me. The head coach of the football team isn't calling the plays. There's someone in a box up in the sky called the offensive coordinator. I just learned this. This was groundbreaking to me. The offensive coordinator is looking through binoculars at the field and calling out plays on a microphone. The head coach is the one that takes all the interviews and is the public-facing PR person of the team, but they're not the one calling exactly all the shots for the sake of what the teams are doing. You are kind of like the eye in the sky offensive coordinator. The executive, the CEO, is the head coach, and yes, like the main one in charge, but is relying on you and many others to make decisions on their behalf. And they go take the heat when the team loses. They go give the winning interview when the team wins. It's the same thing like if you have a board or whoever you answer to with investors. If you have investors, the head coach is the personality of the team, really. And they're like the one being chopped to bits in the media or praised in the media. It's the same kind of idea with a CEO. We pick up on their persona and we either opt into it or we don't. And then the business either does great or it doesn't. The CEO must make time. If you have multiple locations and multiple tiers of employees, if you have frontline employees, if you have employees in different states going to an office, that executive needs to spend enough time going to visit those locations and making time for the people. Because otherwise they're off in their ivory tower and we feel like they don't care about us. And they're like crunching the numbers, looking at the spreadsheets, making decisions without us, with the other executives, and no one's talking to us. We fully realize that we are not going to give feedback that's going to completely shift the company. But when that person of the ultimate power comes and spends time with us, it's community. It's like the basics of human connection. And it shows us that they respect us enough as the revenue drivers to take us seriously for a second and let us feel seen. We really want to like our CEO. It's just that most of our experiences, and maybe for you too, we haven't liked our CEO because they are stuck in their own trauma response of, we got to drive more revenue. We got to go, go, go. And they push. And they get this like chip on their shoulder and they don't want to send surveys and they don't want to know what's wrong. And they think the employees are ridiculous for saying that they don't know what's expected of them at work. And it's like, yeah, but that all ladders back up to you, dear CEO, madam or sir. Taking those concerns seriously. You're hunting so hard for the revenue and the growth and the customer expansion. It's with your employees. Those answers to what's causing that to not happen is in quote unquote breaking bread or spending time with your people who are having the challenges that are causing the business not to grow. Everyone at the organization is one piece of one organism. The whole company needs to operate together. And there is a lot of helpful information to what is actually causing the business to stall out or to not grow or for everyone to be disengaged that the CEO should be obsessed with because it's the answers to their revenue. So just something to consider as we're building Engagement Academy and building the course that teaches you how to drive engagement. A lot of it is focused on getting alignment in your company and getting everyone to see that it's not the executives versus the managers versus the employees. Everybody just has different priorities and has different ways of explaining what gets in the way of doing their best work. But everybody wants the same thing, which is to work for a company that they're proud of, that's successful. And a great way to make sure that that momentum starts for you is to get your top executive, your CEO, to go spend time with the revenue drivers, okay? And you too, you should have time to go talk to people too and do stay interviews. We can do an episode on that. You always want to know what's going well. And you know what? Employees might not have that much negative feedback, but there still might be really critical stuff that's like, oh, we don't have the right software to send emails out to customers. And so like we can only send 14,000 emails at a time, but we've got 30,000 customers. So we send emails on different days. A CEO would hear that and think like, what? Well, how much does the tool cost? Like, I need revenue is what they're thinking. If you all can't even email all of our customers at once, that's silly. Like, we can fix that problem right away. We need to be able to upgrade our customers and communicate with them in a realistic way. That's a real example. That's the silly stuff that our managers sometimes don't want to go ask for budget because they don't want to seem like they're failing in their job. But if a CEO hears really basic problems and is like, well, we definitely have money to make sure we have the right tools to be communicating with our customers. Like, okay, thanks for letting me know. That's the kind of weird stuff that gets lost in translation where our managers aren't always communicating feedback up about resources that we need. So Employees do want to think HR is our friend. I know that HR is our friend now that I know a day in your life and how busy you are and how you're pulled in so many different directions and you have your hands tied a lot of the time. We're working to undo that with the Engagement Academy training. Make sure you sign up in the show notes. You can get a free trial for 30 days, and I'd love to see you in there because you can talk to me directly and all of my smart friends and other mentors and people that have been on the show. But the takeaway for today is that employees do want to feel close to their executive and they want to believe in the CEO. They want to feel like the CEO believes in and cares about them. And that's a huge driver to connection and ultimately the same thing, which is just general engagement. All right, thanks for listening, and I will see you in the community. I'll catch you online. Send me a message on LinkedIn or follow me on one of my socials, and I will see you all next week. I love you guys.